Welcome to Dynamic Spine Performance Center's YouTube channel. My name is Dr. Stephen Ford, owner and operator of Dynamic Spine and Performance Center. First topic I'd like to go over today is why most people actually come into my office for 90% of the time, and that's due to a injury related to a sporting activity, whether it may be running, soccer, tennis, golf, etc. And the easiest way that I go about this by telling any new patient is thinking, taking your body and picturing it like a vehicle. And the frame of that vehicle is is your spine, your hips, your knees, your low back, whatever the case may be, shoulder. And the muscles in your body are the shocks in that car. And when you go over a speed bump, that shock system should absorb that force so that it doesn't bottom out in the frame of your car. And that's the same reason why most injuries happen, is when you're doing a sporting activity, high impact, and your muscles in your body don't do their job and you bottom out on the frame of your car or your joints. And the easiest way to think about the car side as well is the frame is the joint where the two frames are the two bones. The bolt is the ligament of the car or the ligament of your body that hold the two bones together, and the joint is literally the joint of your spine or the joint of it themselves. And when you damage the frame of your body or the frame of your car, the first thing that's going to happen is what is called the fight or flight response. That fight or flight response is what they call the sympathetic nervous system. And when that sympathetic nervous system kicks in, its first job is to protect. So it will not let you biomechanically work as you want it to. It won't let it go through its full range of motion. It won't let you put pressure on the leg. Whatever that injury is, because it wants to protect your frame of your car. It wants to protect that injury. And not to be the mean doctor, but I tell this all the time. Pain is not real. Pain is actually made by your brain to stop you from hurting yourself even further. So by fixing or turning off that sympathetic nervous system, or lessening the pressure in the joints, or getting rid of that potential danger, you automatically decrease pain, increase strength, mobility, and that's what we do. So one of the first objectives and main objectives I have in my office long term is for any patient is to biomechanically make you sound when you leave my office. And going back to that car, if you hit a speed bump, you bottom out in the frame of your car. Now your alignment's off, tires potentially messed up, balance, all of that. So you go to the mechanic, and the mechanic or the auto shop fixes the alignment, resets the tires and the shocks, balances them, and your car is mechanically, hopefully, sound when you leave that auto garage. But what they didn't do, and what a chiropractor also cannot do, is strengthen that shock system so that if you go out of the mechanic and you go hit another speed bump, guess what? You bottom back out. And that's why strengthening that shock system is so important. And it is also the reason why most people have reoccurring injuries. Because say you're a runner, you go run, you hurt your low back from running for stepping off a curb. You come into my office or a chiropractor's office, sports chiropractor's office, and we do muscle therapies like active release, Graston, dry needling, myofascial release, any of a number of therapies out there. And that is to release that shock system or reset that shock system. And then with what the benefit of the chiropractor is, we can also do a chiropractic adjustment, which will release the pressure inside that joint. which is part of that sympathetic nervous system that's telling the brain, the body to don't move, don't move. I'm under a ton of pressure. So we release the pressure and we reset that shock system and those muscles, and you walk out and you feel hopefully a lot better. But one thing I did not do, and I cannot do in the office within a 30 minute to an hour time period, is strengthen that shock system to prevent it from happening again. And one of the main things that I stress a ton in my office is home care, home care, home care exercises. It doesn't matter if you do them at a gym, it doesn't matter if you modify your workouts at the gym, but you need to strengthen that system that failed you in the first place. If you never do that, it'll always stay the same and it'll always reoccur back. Or you can see people, or you'll hear people that say, oh, my back only hurts twice a year, or I only hurt it twice a year and it goes away in a week. Well, more than likely what's happened is they did stretches for a week or whatever the case may be after they first injured it, but they did nothing to strengthen it. And then a week later or 6 months later, it happens again. And that should not happen. Ideally, what should happen is whatever the demand is of that shock system or those muscles, if you strengthen it for that, it can withstand as much pressure and you can potentially never get hurt again. And that is basically one of the biggest emphasis of why injuries happen. It is due to a muscle failure because there's a muscle imbalance in the human body, or there is a external force. And the last thing I'll go over on this topic is when the only exception to my rule, and theoretically we can still avoid it, but theoretically, if you were to strengthen your back to support 2,000 pounds, you could lift a barbell on a deadlift completely wrong, that's 200 pounds, and probably never hurt your back. The chances that's probably impossible, so we don't recommend that. But ideally, if you strengthen your body to whatever the demand is, the chances of you getting hurt drops drastically, except for external force. So external force, you get in a car accident, you get the whiplash, you play soccer or football, someone hits you from the side. Those are demanding more muscle strength in those stability muscles in your low back or your knee. So that is where you would actually need to increase above the normal person who does not play impact sports like football, and you would require much, much more muscle strength in those specific areas or those sports compared to someone who's a runner. I hope that answers your curiosity on why you would hear someone get hurt over and over again, or why you have injuries that keep reoccurring multiple times over a lifetime. Because the more of the chances are you had hurt it at one point during your life, but the rehab or the strengthening of that muscle never got up to what it was, or it might have, but then since we sit so much, it atrophied, and then we try to gain back that strength. So if I cannot stress one thing more than anything is strengthen, strengthen, strengthen.